everyone, Rosie here. Thanks for checking out my channel, Red Door Reader. I am here today with my February wrap-up. To keep from spoiling anybody, I'm going to just give this disclaimer. If I have the book cover up, then I may be talking about spoilers, so you can just jump over it. I have a lot to get through, so let's begin. The first book I read this month was Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I gave this 4 stars. It was a very good book. I thought it did a great job with setting up the world and really explaining what these different fantastical elements are. It's about an art student in Prague. Her name is Karu, and she meets this winged man named Akiva, and there's more to the story. And honestly, guys, any book where you can meet a character like Susanna is a-okay in my book. So after all the fantasy that I had been reading lately, I needed a little break, so I went into contemporary mode a little early before Contemporary-a-thon, and the second and third books that I read for this month are the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and the Second Summer of the Sisterhood, both by Amber Shares, and I really enjoyed these books. I gave them both 4 stars. The first one was very, very closely related to the movie that they made. The second one would have probably gotten a 5-star rating from me if they hadn't gone through this part where Bridget, one of the main 4 characters, she put on 15 pounds and it was like a world-ending thing, and talking about how overweight she was now. I just really didn't like how that portrayed body image in a young woman. Still an enjoyable read. I flew through both of these books. The third book that I read was American Queen by Sierra Simone. That was the February pick for the Book Hangover Book Club. This was an erotica novel, and I struggled giving it a rating because as an erotica novel, solely as an erotica novel, I would have given it 5 stars. There was definite sexy time in here. It definitely went into some fun to read aspects of what happens when you have 2 guys into the same woman. I ended up just giving it 4 stars because I did treat it more like just any other novel instead of specifically an erotica novel. The 5th book that I read this month was The Lavish Dictionary by David Levithan. This book is very creative with the way that it was put together. Each page is basically a word, and you'll see like this one says deciduous, and then it gives an example, whether it's a sentence, if it's a conversation, if it's just a scene of something that happened between this person and his significant other. However, it kind of lost me. I didn't feel a lot of heart in the story, so I ended up just giving this 3 stars. The 6th book that I read this month is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. Now, Cinder is this very clever Cinderella retelling. In this one, Cinder, who is the Cinderella character, is a cyborg. You get to meet the character of Kai, who is the prince in the story, and he ends up becoming the emperor after his father passes away. And there's just all of this intricate plot that is put in here. It was very, very cleverly done. As of right now, I give it a 4 star solely for the ending. Otherwise, that would have been a 5-star read for me. The 7th book that I read is Fallen Heir by Aaron Watt, and this is a continuation in the Royal series. This one follows Easton and when he meets a woman named Hartley. In the entire Royal series, I absolutely loved Easton. He's this little broken, damaged boy after his mother's death. It could have been such a good story, but instead it really made Easton this unlikable character. And I was just very disappointed. I gave it 3 stars, and I think it was kind of a pity 3-star because otherwise the book would probably have just been 2. The 8th book I read this month was Nun French Kiss. And in this story, we follow Anna as she goes to school in France, and she meets a new group of friends, and she develops this crush on a guy named Etienne St. Clair. There were some problems with it. I definitely have an issue reading anything that has to do with emotional cheating. I did not really enjoy it. I actually gave this 4 stars on Goodreads, and the longer I sit and think about it, I'm actually going to change that to a 3-star because it wasn't something that I hate that I read, but it really wasn't something that I would go, hey, you guys should read Anna and the French Kiss. The 8th book that I read this month is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. This book I gave 5 stars to. I absolutely adored it. Lara Jean writes these letters, basically little love letters, as a way to say goodbye to someone that she had a crush on, and one day these letters end up getting sent to all of the recipients. So one of those crushes actually happens to be Lara Jean's older sister's boyfriend, and to find a way for her to make him think she doesn't have a crush on him anymore, she starts developing this fake relationship with another guy that she wrote a letter to. Lara Jean is adorable. I love all the characters. This story I will definitely recommend. 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely check it out. So the next 4 additions to my list were done right in the middle of Contemporary-a-thon, because when is a better time to pick up a fantasy graphic novel than in the middle of reading contemporary novels? And that is Saga Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4 by Brian K. Vaughan. I had actually read the first chapter of Saga Volume 1 in one of my classes at college last year. It goes into these 2 characters named Alana and Marco, who are on opposite sides of an intergalactic war, and they ended up falling in love. They conceived a child, and they had a little girl named Hazel. And it's just this whole story about what happens as they're trying to flee from the government that wants to basically eliminate them for falling in love. It was an excellent story. I am so excited to get into 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're just not on my Overdrive app, so I will be getting them very, very, very soon. Then to jump back into Contemporary-a-thon, I read my contemporary graphic novel for the month, which was Riverdale. Everybody's talking about Riverdale. I have not watched it. I will watch it eventually because the cast is gorgeous, but yeah. I only gave it a 3-star, but the only problem I had is the different chapters. It didn't really go into what happens after one chapter to the next. It was a good graphic novel. I enjoyed it. The artwork was great, but I gave it 3 stars. The 15th book that I read this month was The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. This was for my Taboo challenge, and it was taboo. So it takes place in dual perspectives. One is when Lane moves to live with her grandparents and her cousin after her mother commits suicide, and the other is in the future after her cousin ends up going missing. There was such potential for it to be so much better, and it just kind of fell flat for me. It's not something I'm gonna read again. I gave it a 3-star, but I'll probably unhaul it at some point. It's not something I ever see myself picking up again, and yeah, 3 stars. The 16th book that I read was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is basically a hate-to-love trope taking place in an office setting between 2 co-workers, Lucy and Josh, and I just didn't like it. I wanted to like it because I love hate-to-love. I just wasn't happy, so I gave it 2 stars.
Hi, we're almost there. We're almost there, you guys.
The 17th book that I read this month was City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. This book I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. I thought it was more entertaining than City of Bones. Jace is still, you know, Jace. I have to say, I actually love the Lightwoods. I know this is supposed to be like Clary and Jace's story, but I love the Lightwoods. Magnus in the story was hilarious. I just adore him, and I think the Lightwoods are really like my beating heart right now. The 18th book that I read this month was The Selection by Kira Cass. This is the first book in this selection series. Basically, I was told it was kind of like The Bachelor in this other world setting, and I kind of was not interested. I am so glad that I read it. It was, yes, kind of light and fluffy, but there's like rumblings of this other thing going on with these radicals and these other people who are trying to attack the castle. So this was a really good book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think everybody should at least read through this. Don't expect, you know, a literary masterpiece, but it was sweet and fun, and I enjoyed it a lot. And the 19th and final book that I read this month is These Broken Stars, which is the first in the Starbound series, and it's by Amy Kaufman. This is a book that Amber from Amber's Books and More told me that I should read. This is the book that I have less than 100 pages left to finish today. It's basically about these 2 characters named Lilac and Tarver, and it's kind of the story of survival, of how they get from the escape pod back to the wreckage of the ships. And there's these different things that are going on in the world. There's just real excitement in this story, but so far this book has been fantastic. I'm foreseeing a 4-star read just because the first of trilogies usually only get a 4-star read, and I'm just gonna say thank you now to Amber, who suggested I read it, so thank you. So that was it. 19 books. I don't know how I read 19 books in a month, but I am really feeling this vibe. I am excited. I am so happy to be back into reading. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for all future updates from yours truly. And until next time, bye. Really? In the same series, and that would be the Sisterhood of the Traveling Bands. Second, and I'm not looking at the camera. And I decided to pick up the Sisterhood of the Traveling Plants. If there were, oh, excuse me.